What the hell's the podcast called again? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Boom Bust and BS. Great. All right, Anthony. PDAC. How was it for you?
That was great. I mean, I know we only bumped into each other a few times, just so busy, but man, gold feels like everything is gold or critical mineral. Those are the only two things you can be right now in mining. Yeah, I think the bottom line is gold at 3,000 means that huge amounts of money are being made in the majors, and it hasn't trickled down to the junior miners yet.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually manage to get to talk to many of the miners. I mean, what are they saying? Because they've had, as you said
Well, it's
before.
still
I mean,
hard. I chat with a lot of different executives, and it's still hard at the smaller end. So that's just my interpretation is that this money is about to flow down, if gold price stays where it's at. But, I think it's really hard. In fact, so many people are saying things, oh, it's the hardest it's been in 30 years. It's the hardest I've ever seen it. So, and these are people with big, medium, small, like a range of projects, not obviously the majors and the producers, but the people who've been around.
yeah, and I mean, the market's going through a bit of turmoil at the moment, and gold does seem to be holding up. So, as you said before, if the gold miners don't move, then what are we in this business for?
Yeah, really. I mean, if the gold stays at 3,000 and the juniors don't move, later this year, I don't know. I give up. Well, I think weren't you with me? We were in the lobby of the Shangri-La, and I downloaded what was it called? Pump Fun. Well, look here, Pump Fun, and we were making meme coins in the lobby of the Shangri-La. So I think that's the future if we don't get a market here for gold names. And the other one is of course critical minerals, and you and I have talked about this before. Sort of everything is critical now. I mean, that's kind of one of the funny parts of it. But certainly, what I would call minor metals, which is kind of like the industry name for them. They're all primarily refined in China, 95% refined in China, and some of these have had huge moves. Antimony is one. I actually like tungsten. I'll tell you, I talked to some tungsten traders, and physical tungsten is really tight, in certain market segments. So I think tungsten's going to be big this year at some point.
And if Google Trends, I mean, we just put out that story. If Google Trends is anything to go by, I mean, the search terms on Google are just going up and up and up, and we haven't even got to Trump's plan on critical minerals yet.
And then you move from there, what we're calling minor metals, sitting under the banner of critical minerals. And then a lot of the base metals, quasi-base metals, are also fitting that category: uranium, nickel, copper. I think lithium. There's different lists. Different countries have different lists, but they're all critical, and they're all basically controlled by China to some extent.
Yes, and that so when I was working the conference floor and a couple of the workshops, that was what was very interesting. There was one in particular on critical minerals, and this whole thing of bifurcation of the prices. China's controlling of all of the sort of processing. So how do you actually compete with that in the West? And someone from some of the major car companies and the other miners, they're basically saying you can't. But what you can try and do is compete on the manufacturing of the facilities. So if you can bring the price down from those places, so the big drive amongst a lot of these miners and stuff is, okay, we can't compete on, managing the price. But if we can do the infrastructure, bring the infrastructure costs down, then the long-term price comes down.
It's so difficult. It's so cyclical, and you need refineries, so you need a mine and you need a refinery, and I wonder, like during the Cold War, the U.S. government had huge stockpiles of a bunch of these things that they deemed critical at the time. I mean, they didn't call them critical minerals, but and I actually there's something called like the War Minerals Act, right, where they stockpiled these different minerals that were important to the government. So, I think that's coming in one form or another, and that will precipitate big moves in certain commodities, and their proxies, which are the equities, will also move. So I think it's kind of exciting for these names. As usual, PDAC is a lot of people trying to put deals together. Another big theme that I saw was there are no management teams, right? Like no one, either you have enough money and you don't want to run the deal, or you don't want to run the deal because everyone's just going to sit around and criticize you, and you can't sell your stock. So I think a pretty major theme that's not really being widely talked about is it's hard to find a management team. So even if you manage to get an asset that you think is interesting, people don't want to kind of go through the pain. And so it'll be interesting to see what that is going to
Why
be.
why is that? I mean, what's going on? I mean, we've touched on the fact that there are less people
Yeah, I
coming
mean, I
into the
can tell you
mining
from my own
industry, they're getting
experience, I can
older.
just tell you, like, everyone is happy to criticize you. And the thing about it is, even if a criticism turns out not to be true, it doesn't matter because that criticism is like adopted as sort of a fact. And when the commodity price is going up, investors are the smartest people in the world. When the commodity price goes down, which is what the driver of most of these equities are, the management team are scumbags, and it's just this like thing which is developed in our industry where it's not a pleasant job, and I think it also takes certain skills and talents. And so I was kind of really impressed by the number of people I talked to. This, oh, I've got this tungsten asset in America. Well, who's going to run the deal? Oh, I don't know yet. Oh, we've got this great gold asset in West Africa. It's good jurisdiction. We've got the technical team, but no one really wants to market it. So that will matter, and it will make a difference when a project can't stand on its own. I just mean it's early, and so it needs the early dollars, or there's a change in technical strategy, and having someone to tell those stories is important.
So yeah, I mean, mining's had a bad rap, right? I mean, but we we saw, what was it, a furry at PDAC. So they're obviously trying to fit in with the trend. But to be fair, the trend towards mining, the narrative, we need these minerals basically, does seem to be in the favor of the industry. But so you're still picking up that these
Well,
companies,
it's
these
still hard. I mean, the tape might be coming our way, but it's not here. Like it's not like it's roll out and raise 5 million bucks. I mean, it's not easy at all, and I don't see that that's changing kind of imminently. So I don't know if it doesn't change, then we won't have the minerals. So like we always say, high prices are a cure for high prices, and low prices are a cure for low prices. So let's see if we're going to have to wait and let the prices keep going higher and higher before people actually start to invest those dollars to bring down the price through new production.
it was interesting while we were in there. Obviously it's great vibe, but quite calm. I mean, when you looked at your phone and looked at the stock market, and it's all just kind of coming down, and crypto coming down. And I mean, not to get bogged down in obviously the details of why this is happening, the carry trade and refinancing US debt, all that sort of stuff. But one of the things out there does seem to be the idea, the Secretary, US Treasury Secretary Besson said he wants to move money out of tech, basically. And I do wonder if there's a big opportunity, what you just said, getting the liquidity back out of places like crypto and tech
I
and
mean, I
into
mean,
things like
hopefully,
mining.
but you got you. I mean, people want to make money, so they're not going to just move it over for the sake of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
And there is an opportunity in mining, right?
there's
I
opportunity. I
mean,
mean, it's an opportunity to try to capture the story, but you still have to have a return, right? So, I mean, I think if people always gravitate towards returns haven't been in our sector for a decade, really. I mean, fine, there have been moments where people in Australia made a lot of money in lithium, and there have been kind of moments where people made money, but certainly it's been much easier to be in other sectors.
okay, so how do we get there? How do we, let's say there is this money suddenly, pouring out of all these other sectors. Mining should be ready
I
for
mean,
it.
you got to be there to tell the story. I think people have to be
Yeah.
there to tell their story, why their commodity matters, why their project can be moved forward, why it can be built, the basic stuff. And, interestingly, I think we're kind of at a moment where that's not. I think the budgets for marketing, for instance, are probably lower than they have been in the past for a lot of these companies who simply don't have money. We have these trends around how marketing is effective, and it's effective through digital marketing primarily for retail. And so, there's a lot of things going on, but in terms of capturing the uh, the dollars, I think it's trying to be out there and tell a story about why investors would make money with whatever it is that you're selling.
And that's tough, right? Because these companies, they move, I mean, time horizons of decades. And I mean, just on marketing right now, it's moving so fast. You've got, AI, you've got new tech, you've got just so many platforms you've got to try and reach. Your audience is everywhere. So many different, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these things. I've found that a lot of companies I speak to are struggling with that. They're not quite sure how to place themselves.
Yeah, I think you can waste a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. And I think
Yeah.
certainly the executives don't know what they're doing. And I think even a lot of the IR professionals come from a different side of the industry. They're not coming from a digital background. So I think there's a big learning curve. In fact, we've been, writing about it in Fast Company and Forbes quite a bit over the last year, just thinking about how to take advantage of these things. But, you know, if you're not marketing, you're failing for sure. I think that's true. But at the same time, you can't spend money you don't have. So it's like a catch 22. And, ultimately, if the price goes up for your commodity and has a big move, you'll catch a tailwind and be able to raise some money.
Okay, we came into this saying good vibes at PDAC, and now we seem to be a bit of a down. But
We're not down. I mean, I maintain. I think gold is
yeah,
going to be interesting this year. I think that there's going to be money to be made in the gold names this year, the junior gold names, if the gold price stays up. And I think you pick and choose around critical minerals. That's going to be interesting, right? And we're going to have that big broad net that includes minor metals and then other things like the uraniums and the nickels and the coppers of the world.
yeah. So boom for gold.
Gold is happening, probably, excuse me, probably silver too, but
Yeah.
silver is a little bit different because there is industrial demand for silver, solar, and so yeah, solar alone should really be moving. Solar alone should be moving silver, but it hasn't quite happened yet. If you look at a lot of the charts, silver is also pretty darn interesting. So yeah, silver and gold.
Okay. Yeah. Boom bust BS. I would say PDAC. Yeah, it was a boom, but it's got to be certain minerals and certain geographies too. That was
Yeah, for
another
sure.
big
Yeah.
takeaway. I think
People
US.
still people aren't ready. I mean, the U.S. is hot. Anything the U.S. is interesting. I don't think people are ready for like super hairy jurisdictions yet, but they will be. I'll give you another anecdote. I was with the CEO of a company who has a big copper project in Papua New Guinea, and they had something like 14 inbounds from major kind of sovereign, semi-sovereign organizations, and that's in Papua New Guinea, which is geographically blessed, but also it's not Nevada. So that was interesting that maybe for certain things like copper, where you really need to go where the deposits are, some of these jurisdictions will also get a bid.
Any advice? Last before we cut off here. Any advice
No
for
advice, no
companies on
advice.
how to take advantage of
My
all this?
thoughts. Yeah, my thoughts are you got to explore the gold names right now, the junior gold names. Find a few you like.
Great. All right. I think we're done. Till next time, Anthony.
Thanks, man.